I don't want to know.
Yes, I will start, I guess. So here we go, folks. Welcome in. It's the Draft Summit. We've done this a few years in a row. It's us at KCSN. It's Maddie Lane. It's Ken Swanson. It's Craig Stout. It's me and Dan Harbs. Welcome back, guys. How you doing?
I'm so glad I don't have to lead this, Ryan. Tried to spring this on me 5 seconds before we go on. Hey,
I think that would have been great.
He should have started recording and then asked you, and just like had that be the entire intro. Was just you freaking out about it.
I mean, I'm a jerk, but I'm not that bad. Well, wait a minute. We'll see if we get a drink in us or not. We'll see.
There we go.
So we do this once in a year, folks. I hope that you guys enjoy this. I love hearing from you guys because I have this ritual where you're the first draft guide that I open when I finish, and I just finished yesterday, so I'm just scratching the surface. So like, I just want to talk about how tired are we?
Oh,
that's a good
I mean,
question.
I'm glad you said we though, because you're in this. I mean, this is all of us. We're all in this together. It's a collective we. We all go through this hellhole thing that we put ourselves through. I don't know why we all do it. I mean, like, it's a passion project, but yeah, dude. I mean, I've had a little time to recover. It sounds like you're just now recovering.
Yeah, it's been a year for us.
Yeah.
No one's as fresh as Matt, so like I'm just trying to keep up. It's okay.
That's the goal. For us, we finish early enough in April, right? That I get like that next week and a half after we finish to just be done with everything. And then I start hating every player. Every mock draft sucks. Everybody's top rankings suck. Everybody's terrible at this. But then now, like once you get about a week out from the draft, I'm refreshed again. I'm ready to go. So like I'm all good now. But there's like a week and a half.
Maddie's in full cope mode right now. Maddie's on board with everything.
I'm good. I mean, this happens when you're a youth, Craig.
True. I'm a little bit slower off the line here, so I am in full hate everything mode right now, especially when I'm looking around at all the mocks. I'm like, no, don't do that. So that's where I am right now.
Well, that's a great topic. Greg started. What's the dumbest thing that we've seen for the Chiefs this season?
Oh no! You're gonna make me roast Peter King?
I didn't say his name.
We didn't name drop.
I love Peter King, man. Like, love him to death. I said it like it's like the unofficial start to draft season is the Football Morning in America article, and I stayed up till 1 a.m. today. I did get to watch half of The Fugitive. I don't know if you guys have watched that in a while. Still holds up.
It holds up. It does.
But Osiris Torrance at 31. I don't know, man. It's like the one position I don't think they have any need whatsoever.
I don't know.
I mean, and it makes sense if you're looking for the future. Like, I could understand the pivot there. You know, if you're moving on from Joe Thuney after this year, adding another interior offensive lineman in this draft makes sense. Adding it at 31, that hurts. Like that physically pains me.
Early onset heartburn tonight. It's like, I don't know. What did I eat?
Listen, if there's one way to build a team, it's through the offensive guard position. So I think getting ahead of it early again for the second time in a row of this like little run here is probably the move.
Wait, why does this feel like a cathartic moment for all five of us where we're just like letting loose?
We needed this. Yeah.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. If you consider Joe Thuney to be the most important offensive lineman in Kansas City the last couple of years, and you're like, you know what? Let's just reset. Let's reset. He's gone next year. Let's do it. Let's go all in. Yeah.
You need a good left guard when you just needed to try a bunch of right tackles and left tackles. So.
Sure.
Checks out. I think Peter King's got this on lock now.
Like, part of it.
Cut to Thursday night, and all of these smiles are just gone.
Oh yeah,
it happens, man.
It's so sad.
That's what
we have to convince ourselves that Torrance can play right tackle. That's what's going to happen. And if they do it, you're going to get in there and convince yourself that he can play right tackle like he did for 18 snaps.
Just like everyone convinced themselves that Darian Kennard is going to be the right tackle next year.
Exactly. All right, Ryan, do you mind if I host for 5 seconds here?
That would be lovely. It's about damn time.
All right. So I want to present a scenario to you guys because like this isn't quite as like I can't believe I'm hearing this as Osiris Torrance, but Will McDonald keeps getting mocked to the Chiefs. He's 20 pounds lighter than any Steve Spagnuolo edge that has ever played for this team. He'd be the third heaviest off-ball linebacker if he was a linebacker on this team. And almost like honestly, all the Chiefs starting linebackers are either 1 pound lighter or heavier than him. How would you like? It just feels like the world's biggest outlier, and yet there's so much like connection between the Chiefs and Will McDonald this draft cycle. How would you feel, and how surprised would you be?
Well, I'll start because I feel like if he's taking at 31, he's basically going to be a third safety, right? Like, like what at this point in what the Chiefs do, I think he'd be more valuable there, right? They don't use him there, and we see this every year. George Karlaftis was literally drafted last year at 30. Why, when you have Frank Clark, who was in Kansas City, Mike Dana, Carlos Dunlap, even Omenuwu is not light. Why? What is this? What evidence do you have to say that, yeah, Will McDonald, unless he's playing safety, it makes no sense.
I think Spags might be locked in a trunk somewhere. Joe Cullen went and got Bob back, and they're like, "We're just going for it." I tell you what,
like if they roll Spags out, you know, for the post game presser, like, "Hey, blink if you're okay." Just you know,
help me.
I don't know, man. Like that one just
It's interesting.
It's so often that they get connected.
Yeah.
You know what, though? If you got Torrance and McDonald, since they both play the same over each other all the time, it'd be a hell of an Oklahoma drill. Maybe we can get that for camp. I don't.
It just feels a little bit like with Will McDonald and even Osiris Torrance here.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're hearing round one buzz. We don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. Let's put these guys in here to just kind of see, because sure, you know, the Chiefs are going to take a good player. Let's just try and make that match without thinking about, hey, well, McDonald is way too light for Steve Spagnuolo to ever play him, or Osiris Torrance doesn't make sense for 2023. You know, there's a lot of things like that and a lot of boxes that are just basically just being checked right now. All that tells me is that nobody has any idea what the Chiefs are about to do here. So that's where I am.
I think
well, that's where we've been the last couple years, right? I think it's what you said there. They're like, hey, the Torrance is getting round one buzz. Will McDonald has kind of a round one profile if you squint and forget that he's an older player and super light, and, you know, doesn't actually have that much, you know, great production. So like, you know what I mean?
Other than that, he looks like a round one player. If you look at like his 14 true pass sets that PFF charted on the entire year. So like, I don't know, man. It's like people are just sorting these guys into somewhere in round one. They're like, hey, he's a round one player. We don't know where he goes. We don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. We'll just give him to the Chiefs. If we're wrong, we still just put a round one player in round one. I think that's kind of what it's coming down to.
I'm to the point where I question, because I don't know how many do you do a stack? Like how many first round grades did you guys come up with?
I think like 15. We're like 15 was all
what
said and done.
You're all nicer than me, or I'm nicer than all of you. I got 19 dudes. I was like, screw it. I'll let a couple dudes float in. All right, because Dan had 15 as well. We've been talking about this, and my question, Matt, you said something interesting about how like it's been that for a couple of years. I find it really, really different this year in how little we're hearing from the building. And I felt like even last year, before Ryan Pulse, there was some stuff coming out of the building. You know what I mean? I don't know. Am I wrong?
I think there's a lot of smoke. Like there's just a lot of, I think I was counting, like we've heard running back, wide receiver, tight end, tackle, guard, defensive tackle, edge, cornerback, safety. We've heard like everything except linebacker and quarterback.
And
like
punter, don't forget that.
Yeah, punter.
No, I
wait for my steady B takes, Kent. They're coming.
I don't know. Like it just feels like there's some themes that are consistent. There are some themes that are all over the place. They're being so transparent with wide receiver. Hey, by the way, world, Zay Flowers is working out with the Chiefs, just so you know.
In case y'all missed it.
Yeah, it's like it's just so all over the place and scattershot. I do think there's genuinely like a BPA ethos for round one though, which maybe that's why you hear so many names, because you're just starting to see like these are the guys they like in this range, and you hear all these names because these are all the guys they like as a BPA option. So if you look at it like, hey, they're taking BPA round one, then maybe it's not as insane, and they're just gonna, maximize whatever value they can get.
Well, if they listen to us, there's not enough guys to go in the first, right?
It's true. It's true. It is. I mean, putting on like a tinfoil hat here.
Let's go.
Doesn't it seem weird that the Chiefs very purposefully? Oh man, if I had a hat right here, right? Doesn't it seem weird that the Chiefs very purposefully have have brought Zay Flowers and Quentin Johnston in to train with Patrick Mahomes and have been very visible with all of that. Like, hey, the camera guy's going to be down there. Hey, somebody's filming a documentary about Patrick, so let's send some receivers down there because we know that that's going to hit the open a little bit. It just feels a little bit like in the past, this team would have been a lot quieter about that stuff. And maybe because they're being so loud for so many different prospects right now, they feel more comfortable doing that for a player that they want. Or it's just none of these guys that we're hearing them attached to. And they're just looking at it going, hey, listen, we know Zay Flowers isn't going to be available for us. So let's just go ahead and have him in, and we can drive up his cost. We can drive up his value, get a player that we actually know is going to fall, make sure that he does actually fall to us. I don't know what it is. So, I mean, from a conspiracy standpoint, it is so weird this year to see how many players they are attached to, how many round one guys they're having on top 30 visits. The whole thing is just a lot different than they've approached previous drafts in the Brett Veach era. So that's what makes it so fascinating to me.
I won't argue.
For me, I was just going to say that for me, I think we're at this point. I think Brett Veach is comfortable with his role. He's gotten better and better each year. He's keeping stuff a little bit tighter and tighter. And I think now he's starting to feel himself a little bit, I think, as a GM. And that's fair. Coming off a second Super Bowl, you're coming off a great draft. And now all of a sudden, like, hey, what if I just throw a bunch of random stuff out there to make everybody jump on it? Then I'm going to go have a presser and I'm going to subtly mention it all, but none of it's going to matter because I'm getting good at how to do all of this and kind of poke fun of it in the process. I don't know. I just have a feeling that he's kind of starting to like really understand how to play the media side of being a GM for fun for himself. And I think that's where we are. That's why you see so many people with no idea what they're going to do. You can read somebody that you think has these good connections with KC say the Chiefs are definitely interested in this position, and then they won't mock draft in that position the following week, and then this and then that. And we're just all over the place, and I almost feel like it's purposeful, but maybe not for a reason. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just kind of just out there creating chaos just because he can.
Because the ring's too heavy when I tweet. I don't want to, or text. He doesn't want to do it too much.
I mean, yeah, I think he's got good reason to just feel comfortable. He's the last draft class. Like I said, it was incredible. Not many rookies play that much and be that impactful for a team. And we know that their board is pretty probably set at this point, and they have their guys. And I really felt like last year that he was like, finally, I have everybody positionally, scheme wise that I want, and that we know that will work in Kansas City. And now he's just like messing around. He's like, yeah, okay, I know who I want to be there at 31 or 23, wherever they end up being, and I'm going to
14,
mess around.
11,
yeah.
9.
Who knows? Doesn't matter at this point. I know where I'm going. No one else does. Like, he's just like throwing names at a wall and say, hey, Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh, yeah, I love that. I love him. I hope somebody, goes up and drafts that player because, that brings somebody else that I want down further. Like, Kent was talking. Like, Kent and Craig and y'all are just continuously in there. And I just think that Brett's like, yeah, I have a really good idea of what I want to do now. And I'm just going to keep, throwing guys up there.
I know we're talking about Brett. And one thing that really stuck to me that me probably haven't, there's probably not this is a great form to talk about this. And just like a Brett Veach appreciation moment here / like, wow, they're good for them. They talk about Jalen Watson and Jalen Watson not being a fit at first. and they kept doing their due diligence on Jalen Watson and continued to just dig in deeper about him, had him in for top 30, got to know him a little better, and all of a sudden he's a 7th round pick. That's a 7th round pick. That's a day 3 asset. And they did all this work on him. They were so diligent. They brought him in for a top 30 because the vibe wasn't great at first, but they liked the tape. And I just go back to thinking about, like, they did all that for a round 7 pick. The round 7 pick hits. He's probably, like, arguably, like, I mean, they're biggest sample size, possibly the best cornerback for them last year, like, or rookie cornerback. Like, that's just nuts. Like, I think that's just crazy. Like, that's how diligent these guys are to this process. And so, like, yeah, when Brett Veach holds up a trophy and says, this is what a rebuilding leader looks like in KC, go ahead and flex, because you brought Jalen Watson in as a 7th round pick to try to learn more about him, because you might. I mean, that's no stone unturned, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Isaiah Pacheco and Joshua Williams, and I mean, like, we get, like, that's the other part of that. It wasn't just, you know, the GMs find that diamond in the rough, you know, often enough. Good GMs can find a guy on day 3 where you're like, oh man, okay, so they're pretty good at that. This is too many drafts in a row where he's finding those gems at this point. It's to the point now where, like, that's the exciting day, and it is for us that cover the draft anyway, just because, you know, there's a lot of guys you fall in love with that maybe don't have the traits or don't have the production to go in those early days and all of that. But it's fun to watch Brett Veach operate on those days, because now, more often than not, we're seeing a guy that's drafted in day 3 is going to be a contributor for this team, and not just from necessity, but because they've earned it. And it's wild to think about it that way, but there's intentionality to all of it. There's intentionality to the day 3 stuff. There's intentionality to all the leaks and stuff like that are coming out this week, especially. It's just fun to watch now at this point.
It's a circus, and I dig it. The first guy that I thought of when he came out and said that on the stage was like, that's like, if somebody can make a meme out of this. I don't make memes, but whoever wants to, go ahead. He literally sat down at the table with that trophy and said, reach in there and get my wallet. It's the one that says BMF on it. This is over. And I'm happy for him, but it makes my job harder, and I'm kind of tired of it.
Yeah, it's a good problem though. I mean, I the thing is, it's like, I just love, like, the thing I love about, like, the draft process is, like, we're sitting here, like, especially, well, the thing I love about a draft process being a fan of a Super Bowl champion, which we're very accustomed to these days. 2-time recently. It's just like, we're sitting here, like, we're like, I don't know about Osiris Torrance. I don't know about Will McDonald, and, like, all that. Yeah, like, they might draft one of our, like, you know, worst case scenario guys, and, like, I don't know, the ring still fits. Like, I don't know. Like, we're gonna be critical of it, I'm sure, still. But it also, like, there's a little caveat there that, like, you know, they're pretty good at their job, and they also just won another Super Bowl. So I'm not going to complain too much, because it may not matter whether or not Will McDonald gets a sack as a Chief, because Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback anyway. So, like, who cares?
I have qualms with the way that Veach has, like, gone about team building sometimes. Like, I think some of the ways it's gone is a little roundabout, and he's gone after stuff that it doesn't seem to make sense where the NFL is going. But at the end of the day, it is clearly working, and it's clearly working really well. Like, how upset can you actually be that he goes about some stuff a little bit differently? Like, yeah, we're going to talk about it. That's what we're doing here. Draft picks, Chiefs season, games, signings, whatever it's going to be. We're going to talk about it. And I'm not going to say, oh, I love every move they make because they made it. But I can also be a little critical and then understand, well, I'm probably wrong. He's probably right. Or even if neither of us are necessarily right, they have enough good players that he has been right on that it's still going to work. So, like, the stakes are so low right now for them because of everything else they already have, right? Everything's just so low. It's all just up. It's all just extra.
Maddie, I want you to say this in a public forum, because I know you've said this privately, but Brett Veach is or isn't a better general manager than you?
I'm not answering that. We all have egos. We all, respect our own ability. I think he has done an admirable job at what he has done. Nobody can prove that I am worse than him. There is no proof of that out there in the world. So,
we've published 5 draft guides, right?
You don't know my picks though.
I'm blaming you guys.
Give me the picks. Give them here.
Hey, listen, last year I was pretty close. Last year was pretty close to what the Chiefs did. So.
That is true.
Yeah.
It was the most Matty Lane draft in the history of Matty Lane draft. He called like 6 picks. He's like, you know what? I'd really like Leo Chanel here. Leo Chanel's the pick. Isaiah Pacheco would make some sense. Isaiah Pacheco's the pick. Jalen Watson. I love Jalen Watson. We put a 3rd round grade on Jalen Watson. Matty was
now we're due for the opposite, though. We're due for the opposite this year, guys.
That's the thing that terrifies me. I don't know if you guys feel like that because that draft was so awesome last year. It's just going to be like a dud that we just don't like. And we all see the iceberg coming. And Mahomes is still going to fix the boat mid-float.
Oh, let's hope that doesn't happen. Knock on wood.
I know. Look, hey, honestly, the last couple beach drafts have been heaters. So I don't know why we're worried. He's gonna do things that we tend to like because he's done things we tend to like the last 2 drafts. That's kind of
everybody remembers that Saints 2017 draft class with 7 starters or whatever it is. Do you guys know what they did the very next year?
Marcus Davenport. Was it Marcus Davenport?
Right. Yeah, that was the Marcus Davenport year. I had just pulled it up because I came. Traquan Smith, a Rick Leonard, Natrell Jamerson, Cameron Moore, Boston Scott, and Will Clapp. That's what they followed it up with. So, you know what I mean? Just that 2017 draft was great. 2018, not so much. So you just got to have a little bit of that fear just because things don't usually get to stay this good forever. But then you also have Patrick Mahomes, so it doesn't matter.
He's the eraser at the end of the day, right? Whatever you do wrong, there's going to be a way as long as you keep him upright, right? So that brings me to the smoke screens we were talking about. Bunch of little fires covering up what they might actually be looking for. And Ken, I know you and I agree, but I want to know, starting with the defensive guy, Craig.
Okay.
If they're going to take a 1st-round offensive side player, what do you like? Just, I don't care what Brett Veach says. You're better than him. Go make the pick.
No, hang on. That's Matty. That's not me. Just to be clear here, I'm making no.
You're my director of college scouting, though. So
I am a worse general manager than Brett Veach by a long ways. I'm going offensive tackle if I can. I do think that the offensive tackles will probably all be off the board. All the ones that I think the Chiefs would be especially interested in. It seems the DeJuan Jones hype has really cooled. We haven't seen him in the 1st round of a mock for a long time there. So I think that that's probably not one of the ones that I'm looking at. If I'm the Chiefs, he's got the length, but everything else is kind of not exactly what Andy Reid wants. I do think that Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, those guys are probably going to be gone beforehand. But if they are within striking distance, one of those guys, I'm more than happy to go make a trade up for it. Because like you said, most important piece is keeping Patrick Mahomes upright. Yes, the wide receiver room desperately needs help. And yes, they've got guys, they got bodies at right tackle. I'm not saying that they don't, but make it better. Especially if you are going to move on from Joe Thuney next year. You got a cheap year with the rookie guy this year. Move on from Joe Thuney next year. Having one spot that you're introducing a new guy perpetually here because Creed Humphrey's about to get paid as well. We'll see about Trey Smith. Jawan Taylor's already paid. Just cycling through dudes on that offensive line that are going to get paid, and when you pay them and moving on and replacing them is a very sound strategy, one that Andy Reid has done before and one that makes perfect sense because if you keep Patrick Mahomes upright, we've seen it hasn't mattered as much who he's throwing to. He can still make some magic happen, but also please go get a guy for him to throw to.
Secondary priorities, Dan. Who should that tackle be? And then we'll get to the wide receivers.
All right. Well, we're talking 2nd round, 2nd, 3rd round, day 2, or you just mean 2nd priorities in general?
I want to know your tackle first. Then we'll talk 2nd priorities.
Okay. Well, the guy that is on my board that I would love them to go get is Darnell Wright, and I know that everyone is maybe not as high on Darnell as I am. He's my offensive tackle 2 in this class, and I know that it's hard to look past the 1-year stuff, But I look at this last year. I know that he played at Tennessee, and it kind of clicked a little late bloomer for him. This was a really good year for him, and he definitely is helped out by getting the ball out quick. He doesn't necessarily have to extend his pass sets all the way down. But I not just the athleticism on tape. I saw it at the Senior Bowl. He's got all of it. I think he can play both sides. I know that he played left tackle beforehand. It really clicked at right. So you probably want to stick him at right, but the power and ease that he plays with his, I still think it's pretty finesse movement skills that he has at right tackle is something that you want to pair with your other offensive tackle and Juwan Taylor. Like, they're pretty similar players. I think that you could really kind of get fun with these guys in the way that you can build this offensive line. Obviously, you'll get your offensive interior guy later and really just build the depth and the youth out later. But I mean, Darnell Wright's the guy that I love a lot. I mean, Paris Johnson's excellent, but I really do think that Juwan Taylor allows them to do whatever they want to. Left tackle, right tackle, they can pretty much do whatever they want to, and that was most of our intention when we first started. Like, okay, yeah, you're going to play left right now, but if there's a left tackle on the board that we like, we're going to go get that, and you're going to probably play right tackle, which I'm totally okay with.
I think it'd kind of be funny if it does kind of come full circle, though, that they wind up getting a left tackle in the draft.
Yeah.
It would just kind of be funny if, like, oh, yeah, 45 days ago, we thought, oh, they got to get a left tackle, and they still do. That'd be kind of funny to me personally. I don't know. Like, it winds up, and it just still comes back, and it's Anton. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Jawan, we're gonna move you to right. Just stay at right. You're fine. We got this kid.
Just go back.
Give me a $20 million right tackle. Just screw the right tackle market up for
Hey, you're
everybody
paying
else.
your left tackle nothing. You're paying two of your interior guys nothing. Who cares?
That's
You
fine.
pay your right tackle 20.
Build the Mahomes wall. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't care. Pay whatever you have to for right
Yeah.
tackle.
Oh, goodness.
It doesn't matter in the end. So I think Kent and I agree that Broderick Jones would be my favorite selection.
Yeah.
I have him OT1. I have Tawan in the
As
third
do I.
round. Like, I wouldn't go near him with a 10-foot pole. That's fine. But if I'm totally crazy and they can't get any of them, what do they do next? What do you guys foresee happening, Kent?
Like, if they just can't go tackle, or if they do go tackle.
If they can't, like, if they can't trade up, they can't get anywhere. They got to sit at 31. What do they do?
I genuinely think it's BPA. I think it's best player available. And like,
So who is it?
Oh,
Jameer Gibbs.
Jameer Gibbs.
There it is.
I don't know. Like, I think that's what's so weird about this one. I can't put a name. If you told, like, I'm literally guessing 1 out of 10 guys, and that's what makes this so awesome. That's what makes it so fun and also terrifying. Because, like, if they're really going best player available, someone falls to them that they really like. It's like we had a scenario today, like, no tight ends are off the board. Like a Michael Mayer, like, sign me up. If it's Darnell Wright, sign me up. If it's a cornerback, sign me up. Like, there's like Miles Murphy, for some reason, some people think is
That's
just
been a very
falling.
popular thing to fall lately.
I guess, like, everyone hates Miles Murphy now, and like that's like
It's the Burger King hands. I'm telling you, it's the Burger King hands.
my
something.
goodness.
It's just like, sign me up. Like, I honestly, like, I think there's like so many scenarios if they're truly just sitting and taking BPA that I'd be thrilled with. And that's also a little like scary, because we know there's like just a couple of like things back there you don't really want. There's just a couple monsters around the corner that you really don't want them to take, when there's probably like 6 or 7 options that you'd be really happy with.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is why this draft is going to be so much fun, though, is because it's just so open ended, and how I don't know. It's like, if you sit and take best player available, what does the rest of your draft look like? How are you, like, what's the logic for the rest of your draft? Do you have to build all these strategies outside of it, or? That's why he's like, if Brett just gets his guy, he's like, hey, I'm going to go trade up for a wide receiver because this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to play in the rest of the draft. Like, I don't know. It's going to be fun.
Is that where you guys are at? Wide receivers, the trade up option?
I think so.
I think so for me. I mean, obviously, for some reason, they're bringing Broderick Jones in for a final visit on the final day, trying to sneak him in. You've seen a couple guys, like I think Mel Kiper on his mock draft, like right that same day, had him falling down to around the same. Like, some people have Broderick Jones falling. I don't know why, but they do, right? So maybe if he does fall, maybe that is an option. But if not, I'm thinking, my thought is wide receiver. There's been a lot of talk about maybe like pick 18, pick 20. That seems like a bit much for me. I think that's probably a little farther than they want to move, but somewhere in the 20s, especially jumping a couple of those other wide receiver needy teams there in the mid 20s to late 20s, that makes the most sense. A lot of people don't like this wide receiver class. I'm interested to see where you guys are. I don't hate the top of it. I'm not a big fan of the depth, but I think the guys that go into the first round, your top 4, maybe 5 if you're a Jalen Hyatt fan. I don't know who is around here, but like maybe your top guys, they're late round 1 wide receivers, right? I know, to me, they're all late round 1 wide receivers. So why are we upset if they're going there just because there's not a top 10 guy? I feel like we're down on this class because there isn't a Jamar Chase rather than it's actually bad.
Yeah, that's fair. I only have 2 guys in the first round at that position. I'm just not convinced that the holes are just too glaring for me. You have 1, Craig?
JSN.
And
I don't think we handed out a round 1 grade for receiver either.
I don't have a round 1 grade on any wide receiver, but if we're doing the top 32 players, all 4 might be my next 4 into the top after the 15 first round grades we have, right? It's just like I think that's where they all settle in. They're all top 32 players on my if I were to list it out on my big board, they're all top 32 guys. Like why would I be upset about taking any of them at the end of round 1? It's kind of where I come from with the top 4 for me are Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, then JSN.
Cool. Yeah. I like the Addison. I think you and I are 2 of the few people that actually have him up at the top anymore. Where in the middle of the season, my notes, not to quote that damn movie again, but it was Jordan Addison no matter what. Like when we were in season, it was him, right? Like, so I don't know.
I think the big argument with this whole wide receiver class is that, well, they'd be the first at this body weight to do this. Well, guess what? That's where the NFL is going, okay? You don't have to play big anymore. You don't have to be big anymore. You can play a slight frame and you can succeed. That's fine. And that's what this class is. It's a lot of scheme dependent guys to an extent, some slot guys, some slider guys. And again, I only have Jackson Smith-Njigba with like a 20-ish pick grade at wide receiver. Everyone else is literally stacked in the second round. All of them are just like stacked in there. So I've got, Addison, Flowers. I like Downs, Johnston. They're all there. And then Tillman's in there too. So you have all of these guys that honestly would fit very well in Kansas City. All of them would succeed. Every single one of the first 10 receivers, every single one of them could find a spot to play in Kansas City. So if we're so upset about, well, this is a down year, that's a perfect year to capitalize on that and say, okay, we found a guy, these top 4 receivers, nobody else really likes them, but guess what? We really do. We have Andy Reid, we have Patrick Mahomes. Guess what? Well, good luck. You guys want to stop this offense now? You add one of these guys to it, and you can really maximize what they're good at. You don't have to make them a number 1 receiver. You don't have to do that. You can make them good at what they do and just continue to supplement that. And Patrick Mahomes makes them all better anyway. It just doesn't make sense to me. If the best player on your board is a wide receiver at the end of the round, take him. And if it's not, you have him there. You have all these second round grades on these receivers, and your need is at wide receiver. Take one, make it happen, and make it work.
All right, so do you guys is wide receiver as glaring of a need for you guys personally?
It's top 3 for me consistently.
Yes.
Okay.
But I do go back and forth to the tackles, the offensive tackles, just because I can't bear. It was the toe, it was the ankle. I can't watch it anymore. Like my heart skips a beat every time the guy stubs his toe. I can't take it.
I mean,
it's hard. It's emotional.
MVS, I just can't get over the fact that MVS is like the number 1. I know that they say Kadarius Toney is, but right now, MVS is the dude.
He is for 3 games. I mean, that's what it is. He just and Brett Veach acknowledged that. He said in his presser this week. He said, goal number 1 is getting through camp and staying healthy. That's not a guy that they're sitting there going, he's our wide receiver 1 all season. Like he told you right then and there. You don't get much out of those pressers, but that was one of them. Yeah. So
So like, let's say Miles Murphy and Quentin Johnston are the best 2 players available on the board. What are you doing? Are you taking the probably high? I'm assuming the higher grade that you have on a Miles Murphy, or are you taking Quentin Johnston?
Yeah, I'd go Miles. I have him slightly ahead.
Okay.
You?
I'd say, Greg? I think, oof.
So there's this. Tough. Okay.
No. This isn't a fight we've had today. No. I don't know. Honestly, I think I'd think about Miles Murphy, and then I'd probably load up my draft capital and try to grab see if I can, trade up for maybe try to trade up for Quentin, maybe try to trade up for another receiver because the run on receivers hasn't started yet. So maybe you can move up to 45, 50 and get like a guy you like. You can move up and get Jonathan Mingo or something like that. And then you're going Miles Murphy, Jonathan Mingo to start your draft. Like, okay.
Sure.
All right. Sure. Fine. Twist my arm. Oh, no.
I also know that Carlos Dunlap and Frank Clark are currently sitting out there. Like,
that
does play. Yeah, that does play
Brett
in
Veach
my
told you
decision
that.
a little bit. Brett
Like,
Veach
Veach
told me
straight
that in
said
his
it.
presser
He's
too.
like-
So I mean, like, if that's what it is, and I'm looking just for this year, I'm going to take the guy. I'm going to take the wide receiver position that is going to need more guys after this year. I know we talk a lot about defensive end, but still going to need more guys at wide receiver after this year if they move on from MVS. You got another year to see if Sky Moore is going to pan out, if Kadarius Toney can stay healthy. A number of question marks there. I would actually probably take Quentin Johnston knowing that I've got Dunlap or Frank Clark in my back pocket in July to add to this roster and be fine. I think with one of those two on the roster, the defensive end room is good enough. Like you can get by with that room at that point, depending on what else happens in the draft. But I think that that's probably good enough to get you through this season. Certainly, it's about what they had last year. So
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's just Father Time you got to worry about there, right?
Sure.
Absolutely. I like how Craig's scenario just gets to automatically assume Frank Clark's a part of this, but we don't just get to automatically assume that Nuke's part of this either. So
yeah, because one of those guys is currently a free agent that Brett Veach has mentioned multiple times.
What does it matter? I don't see the point.
One's a soon-to-be free agent, if anything. I mean,
So how do they get Nuke done, Ken? I want to know. Tell me.
Yeah, Kent. How do they get it
Brought
done?
it up, Mr. Man.
So I gotta back that up.
Hey. You can say pass. I don't care.
No. Like, I mean, I feel like if there was a real market for Nuke, it would have happened by now. Nobody wants to pay him what I think if someone wanted to pay Nuke what Nuke wants to get paid or what Nuke thinks he could get paid, it would have happened by now, but it hasn't. So the Cardinals are a giant dumpster fire, and this is one of the more unique scenarios where they might cut ties to save face and have good PR. Like, I genuinely think there's a non-zero chance Nuke gets cut, and if Nuke gets cut, then like I think the Chiefs are very much in play. So, I mean, I think it becomes more and more realistic every day, and the draft's in 3 days. If it doesn't happen in the next 3 days, I don't know. We'll see.
Over under 50% that he's not traded draft night.
Ooh.
I think it's under. I don't think he's getting. I think he still would have got traded by now. Like, I just think he would have, because like I think it's a contract thing. Like, I think it's money. That's where it comes down to for me. So I think he's a Cardinal till he gets cut with a June 1 designation. And whether maybe it is June 1, maybe it's actually June 1.
Craig, do you see it different?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I would have fought tooth. That's what he said. We haven't had this conversation this week. I would have fought tooth and nail against that in like March. Like, I would have been sitting here saying, no, DeAndre Hopkins is too valuable. Some team is going to come and make that trade. Then the Brandon Cooks deal happened. It was just like, well, see, look, if Brandon Cooks is getting traded and somebody's taking it on, certainly there's going to be another team that this happens to. No, I just don't think so at this point. It would have to be a draft night trade, and he's not going for a round 1 pick. Like, he's just definitely not going. This isn't an AJ Brown thing where it was basically like, oh, we hate the board. Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and give up that round 1 pick for AJ Brown. This is going to be a day 3-ish pick. It might.
He's got 2 4th-round picks. I'm just saying.
Right. But I don't think that they're going to do that on day 3. Like, I don't think that we're going to be sitting in the middle of Saturday where all of a sudden they just go, you know what, we don't like the board, so let's go ahead and trade both of these for DeAndre Hopkins. No, it would have been a move that happened well before any of this went down. I think we would have seen it by now. Famous last word.
Exactly.
They don't even have the cap space to do it yet.
Not yet.
No, they don't. It's hard for me to imagine a team cutting their best player. I get it. It's just not working out. He doesn't want to be there. They don't want him.
Maddie.
Yeah, but I find it hard to believe to see a team cut their best player, especially when you already have other guys asking out because they don't like it, and you're like, oh, we're just
Kyler's only
completely
hurt,
punt.
okay? Kyler's just hurt. He's coming
Yeah,
back.
I didn't say Call of Duty players. I meant
So,
football players.
Tyler Buda Baker requested a trade. DeAndre Hopkins is probably getting traded, and Kyler's quiet quitting. Like,
Right. And like JJ
Everyone
Watt,
wants out, man.
retired. JJ Watt retired to go play hockey, right? Like, so, like, what, you know what I mean?
Bring
like,
one of these
that entire
XFL
team
teams
just wants
in.
out. They just want out. And so, like, I don't know how cutting Hopkins helps anything going on. And then your head coach is up there lying in a press conference about stuff that didn't happen. It's like weird situation over there. It's hard for me to see them cutting him. I wouldn't be surprised to actually see a draft day trade. Maybe you have a team that resets themselves after day one, maybe even after day two. And they're like, we didn't get a wide receiver that we wanted. We have some holes here. We didn't get the value we wanted. We missed out. Hey, Arizona, are you willing to eat, some cash like the Houston Texans did, like the Los Angeles Rams did? Are you willing to eat some of this money and make this trade? Are the Cardinals likely to do that? Maybe not.
well,
but...
see, okay, back to being a dumpster fire. At least, I mean, like, okay, yeah, like they're not going to get an asset for him because Michael Bidwell's not going to pay.
Yeah, that's the trick, right? No, that's the hurdle, right? Like they likely aren't going to take on the money unless they're saying like, hey, if we make this work, it's going to help the team in the long run. I still don't think he does it, but it's just, that's an option, right? That's the only, that's how you see him get traded on draft day. I think that's the avenue. Craig said he didn't think he could see a day 3 pick. I don't know. If the Chiefs can't get a wide receiver in the first 2 days and they're sitting there looking at the day 3 wide receivers because the value was bad before, and they're like, well, we have a fallback plan available. Maybe we do offer up one of these fourths.
But here's the thing. DeAndre Hopkins is way better than any of the day 2 receivers. That's a move you're making well before you get through day 2. You're not sitting through day 2 and being like, oh man, we missed out on Jonathan Mingo. I guess we'll go and get DeAndre Hopkins. No, that's a move you're making beforehand.
Dumpster fire organization.
I think I can smell it from here.
Well, you probably
you are closer.
You're closer than us, so there's that. It's not here. It's not traveled here yet.
Win. There we go. Awesome. I'm wondering what we're not expecting. Just like everything we've talked about in selections, trades. Are we going to be satisfied if they just sit pat and don't do anything and they take every pick they have right now?
Are we gonna be satisfied if they take? Yeah.
Are you?
I'll
okay.
be pretty happy.
Yeah.
I'll take one to be happy.
I certainly wouldn't be upset at using all 10 picks. It's just in this draft class, do I need 10 picks from this draft class though? Like that's where I start to come around. Do I really need 10 picks from this particular draft class? I like be fluid, move around a little bit when stuff presents itself. You don't have to force it. I'm not upset if they don't trade up. There will probably be a player available at a pick that I would think would be worth trading up for. And I'll be mildly frustrated in the moment if the Chiefs don't do it, but then you move on from it. It's nothing that lingers, right? And so like, I don't foresee anything like, oh man, the Chiefs made 10 picks. This is terrible. They didn't get Hopkins. Now, if they come out of this draft and like their only additional wide receivers, Jalen Hyatt taking to pick 31, well, okay, that's a different story.
Yeah, I'll have heartburn at that point. Good Lord.
I get it thinking about it, man.
That's a down bad moment for we're all there, I think. I mean, we did talk about an edge rusher that weighs as much as Jalen Hyatt, so there's that.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll let you guys know. I have the end of the 3rd round grade on Jalen Hyatt. That's where I'm at with Jalen Hyatt.
We put some kind of 2 on him, so I don't know.
Some kind of 2 on him.
And I think, yeah. It's a collaborative effort. I don't know if we're all round 2 for him.
So I have a couple of favorites, and it's just like dudes that like click for me. Parrish is one of them. The guy that I like that I think I'm so far out in left field on is Clemson's tight end Allen. Like the dude just makes catches, and I dig him, and nobody else seems to want to even see him drafted. Am I nuts?
Oh, I think he's draftable.
I'm trying to find out where I have him as a round 4 grade.
Okay, sweet.
And I think, I'm right there with you. And it's not the same thing. I was like, okay, like this guy can block a little bit, and he makes good catches in the red zone. He high points the ball, red zone target blocks. It's nothing sexy. He's a tight end 2. and you live with it and you're happy. And then we had Eric Galco. We do a draft show with him, that runs the Shrine Bowl. And he was giving me all kinds of shade for having him up there. And I'm like, come on, Galco, like, leave me alone. I think he has a role in the NFL. I can see how I use him. Like, that's why I like him there. Like, I don't know if necessarily he's like a my guy for me, but like, round 4 grade. I think he can find a role in the NFL. So I'm with it.
Okay.
I have a tight end. I'll stay in the tight end bucket.
I have a tight end too.
We all have tight. Oh, we know. Yeah, okay. I really like Brenton Strange out of Penn State. I think he's a better blocker than people give him credit for. I actually found it to be a little bit more sudden up the seam on a vertical play. And I actually thought he had a little bit more burst, a little bit more sudden than some people. He was kind of getting on some defensive backs and some backers when I was watching. So like, I'm kind of intrigued by him on a vertical stem. I think he breaks a little bit better than some other people. Like we've gone back and forth. Like me and Matt have gone back and forth on this a little bit. I think he can do a little bit more. Like if you're looking at like Noah, like we talk about Noah Gray's ability as a route runner, we kind of got excited that he was ISO'd a little bit. I think Brenton Strange is a more sudden vertical athlete than Noah Gray is, and I think he can break similarly to a Noah Gray, and I think he's a better blocker than Noah Gray. So
it's
like
funny.
What?
The very first sentence I have in my breakdown is that high effort blocking tight end that plays to the whistle with physicality and effort and has good speed up the seam. It's exactly what I wrote. Like that's exactly what he is. He's a really good effort blocker. He's not like gonna be George Kittle, but he's way better than like people expected him to be. And then the upside is that he forced Zach Kuntz to go play in Old Dominion and then not back to the draft at that high too. So I mean, I'm with you. I like Brenton Strange.
That's one of my guys. That's one of my guys this year for sure. So I'm a fan, and yeah, I'd take him at 95 and not feel bad about it.
Maddie, give me your tight end because I don't have a tight end.
I was going to say, he's wearing hip casts, in my opinion. That's where I'm at on Strange. I feel like that 7-8 3-cone or whatever he posted shows up to me. I'm just giving Ken a hard time.
Brenton Strange at 95. I've seen Stranger Things.
Yikes. Tucker Kraft.
Let it go.
My tight end is Tucker Kraft. I'm just going to skip over this. And Tucker Kraft, big Jackrabbit fan. Take Michael Mayer and maybe dial it down a little bit, but same thing. You're getting a lot of the exact same stuff. And he's actually tested as a lot better athlete. So I think if you get him the ball in space, there's maybe even a little bit more there just in terms of a raw, explosive, vertical, linear player. I think Mayer maybe moves a little bit more agile, but it's not like Kraft is struggling there. Sure hands, you get him the ball in space. Same thing. Quality, his size, I think he's going to become a good blocker. He clearly needs a lot of technical work, but the size, the strength, the willingness to do it is all there. So like everybody kind of likes Tucker Kraft. I like him so much that like I have him right behind the top tight ends. Like he's not in a second tier of tight ends. I mean, he's right on Dalton Kincaid's heels, who I'm a little lower on, I guess, than others. But like he's my tight end. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right behind everybody else, and he's just like right there nipping on their heels. So
right behind everybody else.
I ain't reading all that.
So see, I said tight end 6 because my tight end 5 because I have Michael Mayer's name twice. That was my confusion. I was like, he should not be tight end 6. He should be tight end 5, and it was Mayer's name was twice on there.
Yeah.
So see,
that's why I have to proofread all of Maddie's write-ups in the draft.
Well,
Kraft is my.
Yeah, they're all too long.
Kraft's my tight end
reports
4,
are
so I'm with
keywords.
you.
Yeah. I like Kraft too. I don't have a tight end, but if I had to pick my guy in this draft, it's Demario Douglas, Liberty wide receiver. Going to be a day 3 dude. We got to see him in the Shrine. That was my first exposure to him. Good dude. Really sudden. The explosion numbers that he had: 39.5-inch vertical jump, 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. Those show up, and that shuttle's pretty good too. Pretty good gaining separation out of his breaks, good catching the ball away from his body for a smaller wide receiver, good on the vertical plane. But the thing that I kind of love the most when I've gone back and watched some of his tape, watched some of the stuff that he's done there, at the top of his stem, you don't know what he's going to do. He's kind of got a lot of his little nuances down pat to the point where cornerbacks aren't picking up on tells with him, aren't picking up on things. This is going to be a guy that's going to slip a little bit because he is small, doesn't have a ton of production, isn't going to be, you're not going to use him in a gadget role or anything like that. He is going to be a very offense-dependent slot receiver, but I love what he can bring to a high volume passing attack, a team that needs a good slot receiver that can kind of be worked into a limited route tree early in his career. I think that he's a day 3 steal. We may see him slip a little bit earlier because his testing was so nuts. But I really liked him at the Shrine game. The more I've watched him, the more I've fallen in love with him.
Yeah, he's got a top 10 athletic matrix score. Like he's right up there with them. So I mean, it's worth
and
it.
being that size too, like you really got to test well. So
yeah, my guy. I'm going a little defense here. Is Rajon Wright out of Oregon State. I watch him play. What really turned me on to him was watching him play against Jordan Addison, and I know that that was one of my favorite battles to watch. I think in terms of all of these draft prospects, but he's long. He has the recovery speed to not have to worry about most of these receivers in the NFL. He can keep them in front of him. I think he plays the ball well in the air. He's going to be a little more dependent on the scheme. I think he's probably going to be a little bit better. I think he can play zone man, but I think he might be a better man early on, which can tend to lend itself to the Chiefs a little bit better, especially because we know how Spags likes to get blitzing. But I do think he's going to be a day 3 guy. I've got around 4 grade on him. I love the athleticism he played with, and his story is really awesome. I mean, most of you probably know he was on Last Chance U, so that was pretty cool to see him actually not just get through that, but be really good. I think at Oregon State, pretty good athlete, physical, and I like that in a corner. So he's one of my guys for sure.
If you went defense, I'm going to throw you one other one because I'm really interested to see Craig's opinion.
Yeah.
I've been on this dude forever, and everyone tries to knock him off my list, and it just doesn't happen. BJ Ojulari is a top 50 pick for me.
Yeah,
and it's just the way it is.
Yeah,
I mean, I love BJ Ojulari. I mean, I don't know that Steve Spagnuolo would ever love BJ Ojulari, but I mean, and that's kind of why we haven't spent a ton of time talking about him on the lab there. That's a really good football player, super bendy. I mean, and the bloodlines are there. Obviously, his brother Aziz came out, had a very similar profile from that point. But like, I see a little bit of like his brother Harold Landry, these lighter guys that you're not sure is going to be a little bit more of a tweener. But man, what he does, his hand usage is pretty good, but that flexibility is special. And I'm a big fan of that. It's just not something that Steve Spagnuolo.
I think we all are. Craig.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody tears me apart, because I'm doing a board for everyone, not just for Kansas City Spags, right?
Correct.
No,
like
people
he
have to
should
learn
be a
that.
top 50 pick. Like if Will McDonald is being discussed for the Chiefs as like a designated pass rusher. Yes, I know that Will's got way more length and a little more size, obviously, than BJ Ojulari. Get me a designated pass rusher. Give me that guy. If he's only going to play dime or, specialized nickel reps, go get me that guy. I would much rather have him at his pick value.
Oh yeah, I would take him 10 times out of 10 over Will McDonald. I think he has like 8 more pass rush moves and
he does.
So like that's a thing. I'll quickly throw one quick defender out there, later round guy, Dante Stills out of West Virginia, defensive line play, end, tackle, kick inside. We're not talking a guy's going to come out here and become an instant starter right away. He probably is not making some kind of all-pros team throughout his career, but he's going to fill a lot of roles. He's going to give you a ton of effort, and I think he will find a way to be useful for any team that takes him. It doesn't matter what kind of defense you run. He will find a way to make it work. So, like, he's just one of those picks. On day 3, you see that come across in round 6, round 5, whatever, and you're not like excited. But then 3 years from now, you're like, oh, wow, we love that we have Dante Stills 20 snaps, 25 snaps every game to kind of do the everything for us.
Mike Dana-esque in some different players and all that. But in the fact that he fills multiple roles, you're going to be happy with him at most of those roles as kind of the second guy off the bench there. I love him.
I'll go Will McDonald.
Well done. And he held it. That was the best part. Oh, well, I am feeling pretty good about what we've done, and I love what you guys have done. So thank you for hanging out. I know it's late, and we've all been grinding it this whole time. I don't know what my name is, but I appreciate you guys. Any last thoughts?
Oh man, this is it's always fun to do this. I think it's honestly like I said catharsis earlier. It's like cathartic for all of us to do this. Like we just go through this like grind, and now we just kind of just get to joke around and have a little bit of fun with it.
Right.
So that's nice. Yeah, no, this has been good. And by the guides, plural.
Yes.
Let's just
Yes.
Plural.
I gotta
Plural.
post our jersey swap picture. I forgot to do that this year. Ryan.
Dude, that's killer. You're way better at that than I am. I'll tell you that.
It's still bad Photoshop, but it gets the point across.
It works. It works.
It works.
Oh my Lord. Well,
Yeah, thank you guys for having us on. I greatly appreciate it. I love coming on. I think a big part, like Kent nailed it being a cathartic, but it's also we spend so long during this process talking to our groups that work on these different guides, right?
Yeah.
So like I've heard all of Kent's takes 80 times. I've heard Craig's takes 80 times. I've heard this person's takes 80 times. Talking to you guys who I've only seen in passing remarks and stuff on social media, or every now and then when we have a quick little chat, I haven't heard your guys' takes as much, so it's a lot more refreshing. I think it allows everybody to open up, loosen up a little bit, and it just kind of flows a lot better about it all. So, like, yeah, we appreciate you guys having on. It's always fun.
Yes, always fun. I hated every minute of it because we were talking about bad football players, but I love talking to you guys.
Oh man, you guys are great. I always love getting to talk with you guys at the end of every season. This is the first time I think we've all three of you have been on all at the same times. Like the first year it was like Kent and Craig, and then it was Kent and Maddie, and now we got all three of the two. So it's really, really awesome of you guys to join us. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all.
someday we'll finish, early April, and we'll be able to hang out more.
We'll need some more help. We'll need a little bit more help if we're going to get to
I don't
that
wish it on you
point.
guys. I don't wish it on you guys.
No, hey, it's fun. For everybody at KCSN, Manny Lane, Ken Swanson, Craig Stout, for Dan and myself, thank you for joining us. We appreciate everybody. Have a great draft. Go watch them buy their guide. You can hang out with us if you want to as well. Have a good time. We'll catch you next time.